Hello, folks. Welcome to the Scumdogs Kennel. I'm your host, Chris Williams, and I have another great show planned for us. Tonight, we're going to be looking at alien cryptids. But first, while we wait for people to gather in the chat, let me go off and show off some artwork from my own upcoming graphic novel, Scumdogs. All right, here we go. This up here. Now we go this, and here we are. Here's my extreme 90s cover. This cover, well, I did to basically take you back to the 90s. Looks pretty good. The name of my graphic novel is Scumdogs. It's a parody book of things we all know and love, of cartoons we all know and love when we were growing up. So you'll see, so you'll laugh and you'll enjoy it. The Scumdogs themselves, they're super villains out to take over the world. See, they used to be pro athletes. They were superhuman monsters who were pro athletes. They used to compete in the Scumdog sports, sporting events held with superhuman monsters as the pro athletes. See, they're called scum and dogs because they trade in their humanity for money so they can become superhumanly powerful monsters to compete in these sporting events. They're led by their leader, Death Mug, the purple guy with the male mask over here. The two main characters are Death Mug and Buick Starpoon. As I said, Death Mug is over there, and Buick Starpoon is the guy he's fighting with the pink pompadour hair over there. Now, Death Mug is an arrogant dictator who wants to rule the world and stuff like. While Buick Starpoon is basically an overblown, egocentric military guy parody, mostly of G.I. Joe. He's basically a parody of Duke from G.I. Joe, which means him and the rest of his team in the Space Forces each have a military specialty. But he's also a parody. Buick Starpoon is also a parody of the space opera hero kind of character, like Zap Brannigan or James T. Kirk from Star Trek, Star Trek, or let's say Buzz Lightyear or Buck Rogers, those kinds of characters and stuff like that. You can see in the way he looks, it looks like a space opera kind of character. Now, the other members of Buick Starpoon's team you can see are on this cover as well. Over here we have the guy, one of them who's named Roadhog. His military specialty is that he's used to be part of the army. While this bald guy with a gun down here in the blue uniform, notice the blue uniform. His name is Beach Pounder. He used to be a Marine, just another Marine. While back here, this guy in the red uniform firing off his weapons. He's a heavy vehicle specialist. Well, his name's Blast Tank. He's a tanker. All right, that's his military specialty. Now, this is one of 3 different variant covers you'll be able to back when Indiegogo goes live. Okay. All right. Oh, by the way, hit that like button for me, will you? It helps me fight the algorithm so more people can see my content and videos. Which means my graphic novel will come out to you all the sooner. I'm working on it every day, and when it's out on Indiegogo, please back it. Here we have Girl Friday, another member of the Wild Rangers. That's the name of Buick Starpoon's team in the Space Forces. She's Buick Starpoon's second in command. She was assigned to work under Buick Starpoon because while the Wild Rangers fight the Scumdogs and our heroes, they're just morons who destroy everything in sight. So she was assigned to work under him to basically babysit him. But because she's now basically a babysitter, she hates her job and she hates him and she just hates her job. That's Girl Friday. Now we'll look at Death Mug's henchmen. All right, because in all 80s cartoons, the main villain would have henchmen, and they'd be total idiots. The blue guy let's see here. The pink guy down here is Sloppy, and the blue guy up here with the top hat is Murder Mouth. There are a couple of idiots that do everything Death Mug says, but are complete morons. They're going to be fun when you read about them in my graphic novel. Here we have Hair Metal Doctor. Hair Metal Doctor is a parody of a parody of a mad scientist. But my mad scientist has been crossed over with a hair metal musician because I think that's awesome. He thinks of all the mad machines, the machines the Scumdogs use to try and take over the universe. That's Hair Metal Doctor. Here we have Miss Breasty Melons, who's basically a parody of the femme fatale kind of character. Mostly those kinds of characters and stuff. But unlike them, she's a party girl who just wants to have fun. She only became a villain and joined up with the scumdogs to have fun. That's Miss Breasty Mullins here. Now, the Hair Metal Doctor pinup and the Miss Breasty Mullins pinup will be included with other pinups in my graphic novel when you back it on Indiegogo when it's out. But I will also get these pinups out to you on T-shirts from Crypto Fashion as soon as I'm able to make them. So, yeah. All right, we looked at that. Now we're going to be looking at alien cryptids tonight. Cryptids we aren't sure they are actually from Earth or if they're actually alien life forms. Those kinds of things tonight. So we're going to be having some fun and stuff like that. But while we wait, let's go over here and look at Indiegogo. Alien Alamo has made $86,630. Let me refresh to make sure it's still there. Yeah, $86,630. You can back this. This is basically about Travis, who's a Texan who has basically, after he basically retired from the military, decided to take him and his decided to raise his family over. Well, we're part of Texans and stuff like that. Raise his family in Texas, his son and stuff like that. But after the death of his wife and having basically been troubled after being out of the war, having basically suffered in it. He's basically become cold to his son after his wife dies. And, well, on top of that, him and his son have to deal with aliens invading. And, well, they're Texans, so I think Travis and his family will be able to handle it. It looks like a great story. That's Alien Alamo. You can back it for, well, $25. Yeah, you have a choice of 3 different covers, and it looks good. I have to say, this looks great. It's Alien Alamo. Now, let's do this. Let me do this. Oh, I got to make sure something here. Let's see. All right. Oh, Visual Storytelling Comics Showcase Issue 1. Sword and Sorcerer movie sequel. Not bad. We have The Polar Paradox 1 and 2. We have Final Boss, which also looks very good, which has made $7,915. That looks good. Looks very good. Now, maybe I ought to share this video out on Indiegogo do over here. Let's see. Cryptid stream on, well, Cryptid stream now. All right. Use the link #ComicsGate to see if we can get more people to watch my show. So I'll do this. If you're wondering what happened last night, my internet went down and stuff, so I couldn't get a stream up yesterday. So that's sort of sorrowful. Pin to profile there. All right, we got that up. Let me go do this. We'll get back to watching over here. Now, Final Boss looks like a great looking book. It's basically what would happen if Street Fighter was a superhero comic book. What happens is our main hero basically inherited a pendant from his father, telling him how he defeated when it was in a war, how he defeated this godlike entity who was a god of fighters, and if he defeated him, he would gain superpowers. Now he's passed this pendant down to his son, who now learns that with its power he can become a hero, and basically gain incredible power through it and save people's lives. Looks good here. I like what I'm seeing here. Cyberfrog has made $249,196 with 25 days left. It's going to make quite a bit more money, and yeah, I'd say this campaign is probably going to make over $1 million by the time it's over with. So yeah, there's that coming up. Visual storytelling comic showcase issue 1. Yeah, looks good. I like what I'm seeing here. Let me go over here, see if we can get some more Indiegogos up. Knife Hand Blind Spot. Yeah, this comes from Richard C. Meyer from one of his, well, yeah, this is a Jawbreakers comic book, and we have Knife Hand here kicking ass. Watch this ninja kick butt. It's already made $24,405. It's 98% funded, so that's pretty damn good right there. We have Butch Cleaver 2. The new issue is out. That's great. That looks good as well. It's made $1,540 with 30 days left. Earthbound Part 2 also looks good. We have a bunch of new books up, and they all look great. Now, let's look at Cyberfrog First Wave action figures. You can back these action figures. Each of them is $40 except the Vespid. Well, all of them except one figure is $40 if you want to back each of these action figures, and they're fully worth the Vespid one is $75. So yeah, but you can back Heather Swan, Modern Cyberfrog, 90s Cyberfrog, and they all look great. They look great at that. You can get all of them for as well, so that's also good. Cyberfrog is doing good. We've been so there's that. Modern Cyberfrog looks awesome. Our hero, Trek, our hero, as he appears in our hero Ran, as he appears in the current Cyberfrog graphic novel series, Ambassador Paiadini, Protector of Earth, and he looks awesome. Does he look great? Modern Cyberfrog articulation, yeah, look at that. You can basically put him in any kind of stance you really want. His hands are adjustable, and that looks great. Now, because of the stretch goals, each of them, as this campaign reaches it, will gain a bunch of different weapons and stuff. You'll get a stand for each of your action figures when it makes 450,000. At 500,000, you'll get. Let's give you a frog total of 3 sets of hands. Okay, I guess they each is adjustable and stuff. Well, not so adjustable. You get different things there. At 600,000, let's give your frog an extra swap out head with a toothy grimace. He's mad. Yeah. At 700, let's give your frog a nasty bee sting. Looks great. At 800,000, let's give your frog some firepower. Yep. That looks awesome. And this happens to all of your different action figures. You'll each get different perks when the campaign reaches this much. Here's a 90s Cyberfrog. Let's go down to the Heather Swan. Heather Swan action figure. Our Cyberfrog's pal Heather, hero of Vespid's invasion, remembers the world the way it was, and we fight with all our heart to raise her children. And free the world from stinging alien parasites. It looks pretty good, don't you think? Yeah. Let's see this. Heather Swan articulation looks good. Heather Swan, you'll get a stand as well. You also get swap out hands and heads as well, and each of them looks good. Somewhere on the head, let's give Heather a nice smile. You also get weapons for her as well. Let's give her Heather Swan a swap out hand holding a big drink. Now she can have lunch with Cyber. Yeah, looks good. And here's the Vespids, which also comes with a bunch of the same perks. Look at that thing. Look at this thing. It's ugly. Actually, it's beautiful, but it's still ugly. It's beautiful. Actually, it's just awesome. All right, there's that. Now let's go to 90s Cyberfrog. You get the same perks, but it made for him and stuff like that. So there's that. 90s Cyberfrog looks awesome. So there's that as well to say. Now let's look at this trailer. 90.
When the monster you created comes back. You mind if I tell you about my toy? I love this toy, the Modern Cyberfrog action figure. This is the Jewel, Protector of Earth. That is our Cyberfrog. Look at him. I love this toy. He has it within himself to earn back the Vespids, undoing the damage, the poisonous colonization of the Vespas. You can see that we've used this nice, super shiny chromium paint. You are going to love your Cyberfrog toy. The toes all bend like this, super flexible foot. People wanted an ankle rocker so that the foot can go back and forth. We did that as well. We added the ankle rocker. This is all of the articulation that's available for this toy. Now, if we get to $400,000, this is what you're getting. We've set this campaign up with stretch goals, a nice honeycomb stand display with articulated arms. This will get included with your toys. At $450,000, all of the toys get one. At $500,000, we're going to give your frog a total of 3 sets of hands. We've got them sculpted here. Gripping hands, and then he's got fists as well. Of course, there's also the additional chicken fist, which those people who signed up for the early email notifications list will be receiving. $600,000, I love this. Let's give your frog an extra swap out head with a toothy grimace. $700,000, this we have to get to. Let's give your frog a nasty bee stung swap out head. Ouch, anyone have a Band-Aid? Look at this stinger right through the bottom part of his jaw. But your kid is gonna and by the way, these toys, we're going to put them through a process so that they're going to be okay for your kid. They're going to be rated for 14 and up. If you've got an 8-year-old, a 9-year-old, we're going to make sure that these toys are okay for them too. At $800,000, and this is as far as we've gotten. $800,000, let's give your frog some firepower. If you remember Blood Honey, Cyberfrog hooks up with Chelson. She rapid evolves him just to show him a sample of his capabilities, and he grows a gigantic arm cannon. We've made that cannon. We've made that arm cannon as an accessory, and you will get that added to your package if we get to $800,000 for Cyberfrog. Amazing, amazing.
Looks good, huh? Looks very good, huh? Look at this, huh? Yeah. That was Cyberfrog. It looks good. Bianca Zombie, Cyberfrog looks good. I know. We're going to be looking at some alien cryptids tonight and having some fun looking at that. But just a moment, and this looks great. If you're wondering what happened, folks, Bianca the Zombie, my internet went down. Butch Cleaver 2 is out. It has 30 days left. It's made 1,540. So that's also good. It looks great. And also, Final Boss has made 7,915. It's got fully funded. It's 30 days left. Knife Hand Blind. Well, Jawbreaker's Knife Hand is his own book now. It's made 20. It's nearly fully funded from our boy Zach. Going back that as well. Knife Hand looks awesome. So now let's go look at some alien cryptids. Let's see. Vegetable space fairies and other truly bizarre alien encounters. There can be no doubt that the alleged encounter with creatures from another world is already by definition profoundly bizarre. Such reports really cover the full spectrum of the odd and of high strangeness with these accounts reliably, making debate, wonder, and awe. Yet there are some cases go even beyond this to the fully catapult themselves into the furthest reaches of the extreme fringe of the bizarre, hovering out beyond all attempts to comprehend or explain them. Here are some. The Stranger. Certainly one of the more, Here are some, here's Stranger Accounts. Stranger Accounts. Certainly one of the more downright bizarre cases comes to us from the U.S. state of West Virginia. July of 1968, a local man by the name of Jennings Frederick. Jennings, huh? Name of Jennings was out in the rural backwoods just outside of Fairmont, West Virginia. Some point he allegedly had heard a high-pitched, unearthly sound that he would describe as sounding like a recording. That was going at an exaggerated speed. Curious, Jennings searched about for the origin of this surreal noise and saw an alien from outer space in a spaceship. Surreal noise, and this was when he would come across a very strange sight indeed. There in the bush, 7 feet tall, semi-humanoid entity with an exceedingly thin, almost skeletal frame, long ears, and stalk-like arms that was almost like tendrils, and which ended in slender 7-inch long fingers, tipped with some sort of needles or thorns, as well as suction cups. The whole of the anomalous creature was described as green, very plant-like in nature. Yeah, this is another tale of this plant creatures we've heard about before. As if it were part animal and part plant. The whole time Frederick watched it, the incessant chattering sound reverberated around him, and he suddenly realized that he could make out words within the alien noise, like glimpses of meaning from white noise, which he took to say. You need not fear me. I wish to communicate. I come as a friend. We know of you. All I come in peace. I wish medical assistance. I need your help. Yeah. This is, again, the story about this plant alien that basically sucked blood out of this guy so it could heal itself, and then went away, leaving him there. As Frederick stood there, wide-mouthed in bewilderment, the mysterious being purportedly suddenly lashed out with one of its stalk-like arms. As I understood it, basically just walked up to him, and then it put its hand on its hand, with blind speed to wrap him in an alien grip. The needles, thorns on his fingers, then apparently pierced. And as I understand it, basically just touched him, and the needles went inside touched his arm. It wasn't even like it suddenly whipped out and did that. It just touched his arm, and then basically, did pierce his arm, basically suck out some blood so it could heal itself. The startled man's skin and began to draw blood, but rather than the pain, he found himself rather drawn to the thing's eyes, which seemed to rapidly switch back and forth from red to yellow in a hypnotizing, oscillating cycle. Held him in a thrill and dulled his senses. After about 2 minutes of this, the otherworldly plant monster reportedly let him go and took off in a sprint at a nearby embankment at a great 25-foot-long bounds, followed shortly after by a deep thrumming noise that Frederick would later speculate that it was the sound of the creature's spaceship. For years, Frederick kept the undoubtedly absurd-sounding story to himself out of fear of ridicule, but in 1976, he would relate it to the paranormal researcher Gray Baker, who would then include it in his newsletter. The story would be brought to even greater attention when it was mentioned in the late Brad Stinger's 1978 book, Alien Meetings. And was this an alien, some sort of cryptid, or what? Whatever it was, the vegetable man of West Virginia is certainly one of the more bizarre encounters on record. We've talked about this before. Vegetable men are weird enough, but there are other encounters with unidentified, often humanoid creatures that are every bit as bizarre. In the evening 1974, something well beyond our normal was witnessed by several motorists along a lonely stretch of road at Bald Mountains, the U.S. state of Washington. If I've read this article before, I'll move on to a different one. The first of the witnesses was a man named Ernest Smith, would say of the entity he caught in his headlights thus. It was a horse-sized, covered with scales and standing on 4 rubbery legs with stickers like octopus tentacles. Its head was football-shaped with an antenna sticking up. The thing gave off this green and interesting light. Another couple driving by the time by the name of Mr. and Miss Roger Rimsos also claimed to have seen the creature in its ethereal glow. Interestingly, just 3 days previous, there had been a report of UFO crashing to Earth in the region, perhaps suggesting a connection. Researcher author Jim Burden also mentioned in his book Weird America that at the time Lewis Country several investor had led to an investigation into the reports that he had been shut down by the Air Force and NASA, after which teams of men had been brought in to search the area, with Brandon would describe as a special NASA team, including heavily armed military unit wearing uniforms with no insignia. What could this creature have been? Was it just a newspaper hoax or a slow news day? Who knows? So this sounds different from the other tentacle creature that was seen over in that was covered in body hair, but also had tentacles over in Germany or so. So this sounds like a different one, but it does sound like I've read this story before. If none of this has been weird enough for you, then how about the floating disembodied alien brains? On August 17th, 1971, there was a perhaps even stranger alien encounter from Palos Verdes, California. Witnesses John Hodge and Pete were allegedly headed to John Hodges to their car at 2 a.m. when they saw off through the trees their car at 2 a.m. when they saw off through the trees a faint mysterious glow emanating from beyond. They got into the car, switched up on the headlights, and they suspended in the beams of light from their vehicle were what were described as 2 large bluish entities that looked just like disembodied human brains, hovering right in the middle of the road and surrounded by clouds of vapor that seemed to cling to them. The larger of their brains was described as having a prominent red spot like an eye set within it, and this is the one that began to move towards the vehicle for purposes unknown. The 2 terrified men instantly got out of there as fast as they possibly could, and it was later noticed that they had 2 hours of missing time in 1976. Hodges would undergo hypnotic regression after years of being plagued by nightmares and wondering what had happened to them on that lonely road. Under hypnosis, Hodges revealed that he had dropped Rodriguez off at home and arrived at his own house, where he encountered the aliens again, to find that the larger brain waiting for him there, which had telepathically spoken to him. He claimed that he had been taken into the brain's ship to some sort of control room, where it was revealed that they were merely telepathic tools being used by other aliens, this time more akin to the gray aliens typically described in mainstream reports, although in this case they stood over 7 feet tall. These master aliens then apparently claimed they were from a place called Zeta Reticuli, Hodges would then learn various images of nuclear war and destruction as they explained that the human race had grown too powerful for its own good. He was also shown another planet that had been completely destroyed by another race that had met the same fate. It was admonished that humankind would be the instruments of their own fate, telling him to take the time to understand yourselves. The time draws near when you shall need to. Hodges then says that he felt a potent buzzing sensation in the back of his head and found himself back in his own car. In the years after, he became convinced that these aliens had implanted him with what they called a translator cell, and that he received frequent telepathic communications from them through this device in which they made dire predictions, such as an apocalyptic war in the Middle East and the future of widespread use of nuclear weapons. Many of the prophecies given by the aliens have turned out to have not come to pass, and which sort of raises an eyebrow and further than it already is, whether you think this story and its space aliens has any truth to it at all or not. You have to admit this is a damn strange, The United States certainly does not hold the monopoly on such mind-bending weird cases, and almost as absurd as the floating brains is a case involving basically phony sentient bags, which were apparently witnessed on December 1958. Well, Sweden, on the day 25-year-old, bags of Jello apparently. Or they look like Jello bags. Year-old Hans Christensen, 30-year-old Stig Rydberg were on their way along Route 45 from Huggins to 45 to Heinesberg in the early morning from hours along a foggy on a road that had such a poor visibility that the two friends decided to pull over. I should probably slow down a bit. As they walked about outside the vehicle, they soon noticed through the haze that there was some sort of glow emanating from the surrounding forest nearby. The two decided to hike off into the darkened glow forested trees. By the way, folks, thank you for listening to this video. We're going to have some fun to try and see where the light was coming from. And after penetrating around 150 feet into the woods, they allegedly came across the source of the glow, which proved to be far more bizarre than they anticipated. There before them was a disc-like object resting on two legs around 2 feet long, the whole of which cast a scintillating glow of ever-changing colors. Even odder than the sight of this apparent flying saucers, what could be seen covering about the vicinity were 3-foot-long amorphous blobs that Rydberg would describe thus. They were like protozoa. Well, they were like blob creatures, just a bit darker than most, sort of a bluish color, hopping and jumping around the saucer-like globs of animated jelly. Nowhere on the bodies were any visible limbs or sensory organs. Nowhere on the bodies were any visible limbs or sensory organs, nor any other discernible features. And it was as if they were just pulsating gobs of gelatinous of jelly or jam, or just say blobs that could somehow levitate over the ground. Things got rather tense very quickly when these unusual entities suddenly surrounded the two puzzled men and purportedly began to engulf their limbs within their throbbing masses, described as feeling like magnetic dough, while at the same time exerting a terrible stench like ether and burnt sausages. It seemed like the blob-like creatures were trying to drag the increasingly terrified witnesses towards the glimmering disc, and no matter how hard the two witnesses fought back and struggled, it did little good. By chance, Rydberg finally managed to tear himself free and run back towards their car with the alien blobs in hot pursuit. When he reached the vehicle, he leaned heavily on the car's horn, piercing the night with a wail of noise in an effort to draw everyone's attention to their plight, but which also seemed to have the effect of startling the creatures enough to let go of Griffith, of the other guy, to let go of. The blobs then huddled under their craft, filed inside of it, and shot off away in the night sky, leaving behind a screeching, whistling blare. Blair, and two very shaken men who found themselves that they were covered in strange bruises and cuts. Jefferson, perhaps understandably, kept the story to themselves for some time, but Rydberg understandably kept the story to themselves for some time, but when it finally came out, it became a minor sensation in Sweden. Two witnesses were also interviewed by police, and although the story was without a doubt off the wall, they could find no sign of any hoaxing going on. Even when the two were secretly monitored, when they thought they were alone, they did not let on that there was any lying or trickery going on. The men were also found to be in fine physical and psychological health, and then the police concluded that the men really seemed to have been traumatized by what they at least truly believed they had seen, wherever that was. All right. This particular case of what are commonly referred to as the Dunstan blobs is also covered by Stricker in his book Strangers from the Skies, with the author himself referring to the outlandish monsters as terrible flying blobs. It is difficult to discern just what was that these two men saw, or at least thought they saw. Maybe alien blob creatures with no other accounts anywhere, nor will probably never know. Moving to England, we have the weird case that appeared in 14 times in the summer of 1988. The incident occurred near Birmingham, West Midlands, where on, the 4th of 1979, Jean was out working in her garden. At some point, she looked up to see a glowing orange speeder hover over her home, which gradually changed to white and inexplicably caused her dog to collapse to the ground, seemingly paralyzed. Things got even stranger still when some tiny fairy-like entities suddenly came buzzing down out. They came from down out of the sky to enter the house. The article would describe these beings thus: were about 3 feet tall and dressed in silvery tunic with 6 silver buttons down the front. They had large eyes like black diamonds, and with a glittering luster set into white faces with no nose to speak of and simple line of the mouth. Their heads were covered by transparent helmets like goldfish bowls, surmounted by small lights. Their limbs were silvery green, ending in simple tapering points. No apparent hands or feet. They had large oval wings, which looked as if they were made of thin, transparent paper covered with dozens of glittering, multicolored dots, like billy dots, each being surrounded by a halo, and numerous very thin streamers hung down from their shoulders. They hovered and flew about the room with their arms collapsed in front of their chests, while their legs hung down stiffly. Their wings didn't help like those of birds, but seemed to be for display and merely fluttered gently or occasionally folded inwards like they were folded up. Their expression, like a dead person's face, never changed during the encounter, which lasted for an hour. These creatures apparently spoke in unison in a low, gruff voice, and would occasionally emit a laser-like beam of light from their helmets, which had the effect of dazzling the witness and creating a burning sensation. The creatures were also quite mischievous and troublesome, knocking objects over, shaking like Christmas, shaking the tree, jumping on the sofa, banging on walls, and generally making a nuisance of themselves. They would continue this cavorting, occasionally stunning howling with their enigmatic laser weapons until they were called to attention by a sudden beeping noise coming from the garden. The creatures then fled back outside, oddly carrying with them a piece of mince pie they had pilfered from the kitchen, and entered the large orange craft that had been hovering over the house earlier, which was now sitting upon the ground and sported portholes and 2 long antenna-like structures that glowed blue. When the craft was gone, Hingley, Jean here, claimed that she had been incapacitated by inexplicable pain, and when she snapped out of it, she realized that there were a tiny burn mark on her forehead. An inspection of the area turned up to what appeared to be 8-foot-long tracks, like the tracks of a tank tread. It was found that various electrical appliances in the home had been mysteriously fried by some unknown force. What were these fairy-like beings, and what did they want? Another account first came to public attention in 1968 issue of Flying Saucer Review and came from the nearby French. In 1962, a businessman was driving along. So what do you think about this? Alien cryptids. We looked at a few here. Definitely fit the profile, huh? Very interesting what we've read so far. Let me go over here to see if you guys hit that like button. Thank you. If you have not hit that like button yet, folks, please do so. It helps me fight the algorithm. As well as please hit that bell, and hit the part of the bell that gives you all future notifications for my videos, as well as please go share this video on Twitter and Facebook and Gab. All right. Another flight. Another account came to public attention. 68 issue of Flying Saucer Review comes from nearby France. 1962, a businessman was driving along rural road on a dark and rainy night. As he drove along the desolate stretch of road, peering through the torrent of rain, the witness allegedly noticed a group of figures huddled in the middle of the road as he rounded a bend. He at first took these people to be perhaps in need of help, but would soon find out that these were no human beings. The witness would explain. My window was down, and I leaned my head out and slightly to see what was the matter. It was then that I saw beasts, some kind of bizarre animals with the heads of birds and covered with some sort of plumage, which were hurling themselves from two sides towards my car. Terrified, I would wound up my window, accelerated like a madman, and stopped 150 meters, approximately 500 feet further on. I turned around and saw that these things, these beasts, these nightmare sort of beings which were heading with a sort of flapping of wings towards a luminous dark blue object, which hung in the air over a field on the other side of the road. Reaching the UFO, these birds were literally sucked into the under part of the machine as if by whirlwind, and I heard a dull sound, and the object flew off at a prodigious speed and finally disappeared. Sounds like Mothman, yeah. What were these bizarre bird-like beings? Since no one has seen anything like it, is anyone's guess. Finally, we leave Europe to come to South American country, and a very harrowing, strange part of November 1954. On November 28th, 1954, two witnesses who were driving a truck from from Caracas, when in the early morning hours they came across an enormous glowing orb floating around. In the early morning hours they came across an enormous glowing orb floating around about 6 feet above the ground in front of them. Perhaps unwisely, the men stopped the truck and got out to investigate, upon which they noticed several small 3-foot high aliens covered in bristly hair that seemed to be gathering rocks to bring aboard the craft. Now the men approached them, decided to try and grab one of the creatures. Which turned out to be a bad idea. The creature was very strong, and the creatures fought the men who they were trying to grab at them, and basically they made the men back off. The small figure, ape-like being, was apparently vastly strong, effortlessly flinging them off and then proceeding to viciously claw at them. And Gonzalez fought back by stabbing it with a knife. His weapon was found to have no effect at all. They continued until one of the other creatures put an end to it, but all by firing off a stunning beam of bright light that knocked the two men to their knees, whereupon the odd beings entered their ship and shot off into the night. Medical examination would show that they did indeed have a nasty-looking scratch mark on his body, and the two men were found to be completely sober. Making the whole case even more bizarre was a report from another witness who also claimed to have seen the creatures and to have seen the struggle between them and the two witnesses. There are some of the most outrageous, perplexing, and even downright absurd reports of alien encounters there are, and we are left to wonder, just what is going on here? What happened there? What are these creatures? We're talking about alien cryptids tonight, and we read a few of these stories. Now, let me go over here. Americans believe ghosts, ancient aliens, not Bigfoot. Princess Diana. Right, let me go. This crypto economics, Canadian coins. Right, right. Let me do this. Looking for a few more alien cryptids. From lizardmen to frogmen, other creatures. Right. Right. Let me go over here. I want to try something here. Let's try this. Alien. Maybe this. All right. Let me see this. cryptid phenom. All right, let me look at this. Alien cryptids. Look at this thing. Here are various pictures of what people think alien cryptids look like. You see the various aliens here and stuff like that. You see things we've seen before, and they all look like something various stories I've covered before on this channel. That looks pretty good. Do that. Now we looked at that. I just want to take a look at that. Fresno Nightcrawler. Let's see. Phantoms and Monsters. Encounter. Phantoms and Monsters. Let's try that. UFO Encounter. Craft State Park, South Carolina. Oh, wait a minute. Whoa. There are a few, I forgot about this. Let me go back over to Phantoms and Monsters. There are a few articles over here I would like to counter. Bigfoot Signs and Counter Reports. Where are you? There was a unnatural sounds from cornfield alarm Northwest Ohio residents. We go down here. I might have to. There are a couple of stories that basically covers the same things we were talking about tonight. I read these stories. I want to show them to you. Let me get down here. I think, yeah. Is this it? July. Is this it? I think. No. Wrong one. Let's see. Natural Sounds. Encountering alien abduction, Craft State Park. Bizarre. Yeah. Alien. Yeah. In South Carolina, man calls a UFO sighting the subsequent abduction by several small childlike beings they experienced while camping with his girlfriend in Craft State Park. This is a good one. I read the story before. You'll enjoy it, folks. My experience is a bit hard to talk about. It literally has changed my entire... Let me get over here. My entire life, and has had a huge impact on almost everything in my life. Do this real fast. Get back to where I was. All right, let's do this. Almost everything in my life in one way or another. Yeah, it has changed everything in my life one way or another. Yeah, like that. Let's get into this story here. My name is Lewis, and I'm from a small town in South Carolina called Whitmore, born in 1957, so I'm currently 64 years old. I was part of the baby boomer generation in a small rural area of the Deep South. I had the typical childhood from anyone growing up in that era. I was a country boy, so I did the stereotypical things country boys did. I played a lot of baseball, football, did some hunting, and a whole lot of fishing. I loved to fish, still do. My home was a Christian one, with me and my folks almost never missing a Sunday service. Was raised with a less than open-minded pair of parents. I never ever heard of anyone talk about the paranormals, no ghost stories or any creepy crawlers, and definitely no stories about aliens or UFOs. But one of my friends, when I was around 10 or 11, had some comic books called UFO Flying Saucers. I remembered looking at the cool cover art and reading the interesting stories inside, never once thinking that one day I would experience something I would have trouble talking or even thinking about. So it was then that I became really interested in UFOs, aliens, and thinking about the real possibility of otherworldly beings traveling the universe, traveling the expanse of space and time to visit us here on Earth. As I went by and grew up, I thought less and less about the subject altogether. I stopped reading comic books and magazines and started chasing girls. Just after finishing high school, I met the love of my life, Jackie. We dated for a while and eventually got married. Raised a beautiful family, but my encounter happened before we were married. We had been together around 2 years when the summer was approaching, and we had wanted to do some camping and fishing together. You see, I lucked out because Jackie loved fishing too. Loved fishing too. Was a welcome companion on many fishing trips. So we started looking at some good places to camp and fish for a few days. Just the two of us. We did some asking around, and everyone told us that we needed to check out our Craft State Park just outside of Sprinburg. So that's where we decided to go. We packed up the car and headed to Craft State Park to camp and fish for 2, 5, 7 days. We weren't really sure the place was great. The surroundings were beautiful, and Lake Craig looked promising. We had a small aluminum John boat with us that we could do some fishing on, and we really were really excited. We selected a campsite, set up our stuff, and made ourselves a few sandwiches to eat and take it all in. The spot we selected was far from anyone else. We hardly saw anyone at the back park at all, so we were in heaven. And after dinner, we climbed into our tent and went to sleep. By the way, folks, if you have not yet, please hit that like button for me. It really helps me fight the algorithm. The more people that see my videos, the more people will want to buy my graphic novel Scumdogs, and all the sooner it will come out. So go and basically hit that like button for me, as well as hit that bell, hit the part of the bell that gives you all future notifications from my videos. And please also share this video on Twitter and Facebook. We're beautiful, and Lake Craig looked promising. We had a small, as we get back to this article here, we had a small aluminum John boat with us, could do some fishing out of, and we were really excited. We selected a campsite. Yeah, all right, that looks pretty good, huh? Very fun here. All right. Campsite and set up our stuff and made ourselves a few sandwiches to eat and take it all in. The spot we selected was far from anyone else. We hardly saw anyone at the park at all, so we were in heaven. After dinner, we climbed into our tent and went to sleep. We woke early the next morning and had a fantastic day of fishing. It was the perfect day again, and as the sun was setting, we cooked some ham and eggs in a skillet and ate dinner. By the time we were finishing up, it was pretty dark outside, and Jackie was commenting on all of the beautiful stars in the sky when we both noticed something strange. She saw it. We saw it first and said, "Lewis, do you see that orange-looking star?" Lewis, the reason I wasn't answering is that I did see it, and I knew that it wasn't a star. I don't know how, but I did. Instantly, all of those magazines and comic books from my youth came fleeing back into my mind. I knew first that it wasn't a star because the thing was moving around, zigzagging, holding completely still, and then moving again. I told Jackie that it's not a star, babe, and she said, "Then what is it, a plane perhaps?" I told her that I didn't know, of course. I didn't want to tell her that secretly I thought it might be a flying saucer. I really liked this girl, and I didn't want her to ruin things by making her think I was crazy. We watched it for about 15 to 20 minutes, and then it just disappeared. After that, we talked about other stuff for the next 2 to 3 hours and turned in for the night. The next day came and we did some hiking on some of the local trails. Again, it was a great day, and I and Jackie were having just the best time. As the day went round down, we made dinner a fire, and did some more stargazing. And all of a sudden, we saw the same orange orb we saw the previous night. Jackie excitedly said, "Lewis, look, there it is again. What is that?" I saw it again, too, and again I told her that I didn't know. All of a sudden, the object stopped moving around and started to grow in size, or at least that's what we originally thought. After watching it for a minute or so, I realized it wasn't growing in sight. It was approaching us in our campsite. It was coming towards us. The thing descended over Lake Craig and hovered over the surface of the water about 100 feet or so. I have no way of actually knowing the altitude, but there was an old water tower near my house, and it's which stands at about 116 feet, and this looked close to that height. It was about 4 to 5 football fields in length away from us, and it just sat there. No sound, nothing. It was completely quiet, no crickets or cicadas or anything. Suddenly, Jack said, "Lewis, is that a flying saucer?" And I said, "Maybe. I don't know." Well, at least it sat there for about 2 minutes and then shot off into the air very quickly, making absolutely no sound. That was it. It was gone. Surprisingly, Jackie didn't seem frightened by it, just excited. We talked about it for a while and went to sleep. At around 3 o'clock a.m., I woke up in the morning, woke up in our tent and saw a small glow coming from outside. I thought that maybe our campsite had flamed again. I tried to ignore it and go back to sleep. I could hear something outside of the tent moving around, stepping outside, scurrying sounds. It's hard to describe, but I could tell something it was in our campsite. I thought maybe Jackie, for me, left some food out there, and the raccoons were getting into our supplies, and I needed to get my flashlight, put my shoes on and shooed them all away. So I first found my shoes and put them on and tied them. Then I felt around the dark tent trying to find my flashlight. Eventually, I found it after looking for a minute or two. I tried to turn it on. Nothing happened. I was confused. Well, I had just put 2 new batteries in it before we left to come out here. I had used the flashlight earlier that evening with no problems. This was one of those old metal flashlights from the 70s that kind of looks like a lightsaber. So I banged it a few times, took the batteries out, and put them back in. But nothing. As I was doing this, I could still hear multiple things moving around in our camp. Only light faint sounds, but I could hear it. By this time, Jackie woke up and said, "Lewis, what in the hell are you doing?" I told her that some raccoons were in our campsite and that I was trying to get the flashlights to work. I wanted to scare them off, but I couldn't get it to work. But that she should just go back to sleep. She reminded me that on one tree by the fire pit there was a Coleman kerosene lantern. I was like, "Yeah, I'll just use that." So just like that. I'm not really concerned about what was happening. I zipped the tent and stuck my head out. What I saw forever changed me. The orange glow I saw from inside of the tent that I assumed was our campfire was our flaring back up was not our fire at all. It was the large orange orb from earlier. It was back in this time much, much closer. This time it was only 50 yards from the tent and only around 15 feet from the ground. Again, it was completely silent and it was spinning in a counterclockwise motion, but very slowly. The colors were swirling too. They were all various shades of orange, but they were moving. It kind of looked like videos of the sun's surface, but there was no heat. At this point, I was in shock. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. I just sat there in awe. That's when something moving to my left towards the picnic table with our food and supplies, but I thought raccoons were something completely different. What I saw were 4 to 5 small, thin children with no hair or only slits for mouths, and large black almond-shaped eyes. They appeared to be rummaging through our belongings, but I couldn't understand why these odd-looking kids were out there in the middle of the night, a remote camping spot coming through our gear. But before I could try and compute what I was seeing, one of them noticed them. It stopped and produced a wand. A small thin stick like a baton that a conductor of an orchestra would use. That's the only way I can describe it. This being moved to me very quickly and put this wand to my forehead, and that was it. White, like a really bright camera flash. Everything went white. The next thing I remember, Jackie was waking me up on a trail I was laying on. And I was lying in some tall grass, and the sun was hot and warm. It was like 1:15 in the afternoon. Jackie was yelling at me, "Wake up!" I was coming to. There were two, park rangers there as well. I was still in a drunk or hungover. I felt like I was drunk or hungover. Jackie was there with 2 park rangers. They were offering me some water. I was confused. I was trying to make sense of what was happening. Jackie was visibly shaken and was happy to see me as well, being really pissed off at me. She just kept totally yelling at me, "Lewis, where the hell did you go? Where did you go? Why did you leave me all alone in the tent?" I was like, "What are you talking about? I didn't leave you. Where am I? What's going on?" She said, Lewis, you woke me up in the middle of the night and told me that some raccoons were missing with their stuff and that you were trying to get the flashlight to work but couldn't. I told you about the kerosene lantern, told about go back to bed. I did, but you never came back. I woke up at 6:30 or so that the tent was wide open and unzipped and you were nowhere to be found. I got up and got dressed. I started looking. I started to speak out loud your name. I thought maybe you went fishing without me, but all of your stuff was still at camp. The lantern was still hanging on the tree by the campfire. The flashlight was still on the tent. I looked for you all around the camp for 3 hours, yelling your name, but we couldn't find you, so I didn't know what to do. But it was getting worried, so I went to the park ranger station and told them that you were missing. They told me not to worry, and they began helping me by asking exactly what happened and where we were and stuff like that. As she was telling me all of this, the 2 park rangers were shaking their heads with agreement with her story. They told me that they found me off of a trail, roughly a mile and a half from our campsite, face down in the tall grass that I didn't have any shoes on and that my shirt was inside out and on backwards. Yeah. They wanted to know what kind of drugs I take. I told them I didn't take anything. I was just trying to scare away some raccoons. And the next thing you know, I'm here on the trail taking to you guys. Needless to say, freaked out when I didn't tell Jackie about the giant orange orb and the odd-looking children for about 10 months. I was different once we got back home. Not depressed, but different. After a while, Jackie asked me what was going on with me. Was there something that I wanted to get off my chest? Was there something bothering me? I told her yes. I told her everything. She just listened. I didn't think she believed me. I don't think she ever did. Just listened, never judged me, but told me me that she thinks I must have had a bad dream and sleepwalked to where they found me in the tall grass. I didn't know if she truly believed that or if it freaked her out to consider the possibility that I was taken by some strange extraterrestrial visitors. I tried to speak with her about it a few times over the years. She always tells me to stop. My children have tried to talk me into seeing a clinical hypnotherapist trying to recall what happened during my missing time, but I'm too scared to find out. I've lived more than 40 years, and there's all that stuff, and it was a pretty interesting story, huh? Very interesting story. What do you think these people have seen? Did they actually see these cryptid creatures? Or what? These aliens. Were they aliens or were they something else? It's all very interesting to see and very interesting to read about. Coming to the end of this live stream, we've had some fun. But what do you think these people actually saw? I mean, are these creatures from this planet? Do they have their own society, or did they come all the way from outer space? Stuff like that. I mean, we talk about various creatures, very odd, very weird creatures tonight. So we have to wonder what these things are. As I've asked before, what do they want? What could they possibly want by abducting people? And did they do anything to this guy, or were they just screwing with him? Because I don't know what they were doing. It's all very, very very cool and interesting. By the way, folks, please go and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Read comics, they're bad for you, okay? The there is misspelled. Make sure you're still subscribed. Hit that like button for me because it helps me fight the algorithm so more people can see my content. And the more people that see my content means that I can bring you my graphic novel, Scumdogs, out to you all the sooner. Share this video on Twitter and Facebook, as well as leave some comments down below because I love to hear from you guys. Hit that bell and hit the part of the bell that gives you all future notifications for my videos. And go leave some hit that like button. Also, please go over to Stitch Together Pics. Stitch Together Pics is a YouTube channel who is hosted by a great host. You're going to love his reviews of movies. Stitch Together Pics is a great YouTube channel, so go and subscribe to him. As well as please go and subscribe to Creepy Little Book. Yeah. As well as go over to, that's another YouTube channel, Creepy Little Book. As well as go over to rumble.com and subscribe to my Rumble channel. The name of my Rumble channel is Comic Freak. All right. As well as go up to BitChute and subscribe to my BitChute channel. Well, go to bitchute.com. and subscribe to my BitChute channel. The name of my BitChute channel is Comic Freak. I upload all my videos there. Also, go over to Creepy Little Book and subscribe to him too. Creepy Little Book is like the Art Bell radio show. He does small videos talking about high strangeness, but he also does live streams every night. He live streams on weekdays at 12:30 a.m. and on weekends at 10 o'clock p.m. He talks about aliens and ghosts. You learn so much from watching his live streams. You learn so much about what is going on in the world that no one wants to talk. That no one talks about. It's a place for the night people to come and watch high strangeness and learn about aliens and ghosts. All right, what else is this to talk about? Oh yes. Also, please go and remember, folks. I'll be back again tomorrow around 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock or 8. Or 10 or 11 for another live stream, so be sure to come back again then. All right, that's pretty good. Now, folks, we had some fun today. We looked at some alien cryptids, learned about a lot of stuff and what goes on in the world, and we had some fun. We also looked at a few Indiegogos as well, but we also learned about alien cryptids. So we had that to look forward to as well. But what do you think these people actually saw? Were these things actually what they saw, or were they just illusions? And the alien creatures or cryptids actually look completely different than what these people actually saw? Because we saw things that basically, no one can really say that they think would ever. Well, none of these people actually probably believe that such creatures could ever actually exist, but yet they saw them. But did this actually happen to these people? It's very interesting to think and to wonder about, isn't it? But you got to understand is, what could they possibly have been? I mean, honestly, it was very cool to look at. Now, let's see. Any other words I can say about this? Just that I think that these people actually did see something. I don't know what they actually saw, but they saw something. So there was that. Now, they actually saw something. I'm Chris Williams from the Scumdogs Kennel. Thank you all for joining me. I'll see you all again.